When the storm will stop and the noise goes down, the lights go up in the middle of town. When the streets are gone and there's no...
Hey friends,
I'm JB,
and I'm Sarah.
and this is the Go Podcast.
When the storm will stop and the noise goes down, the lights...
This is going to be good. This one is going to be so good because Jonathan and I are agitated at each other. Specifically, I'm agitated at Jonathan.
You're the only agitated one in the
For
room
no
right
reason.
now.
I have no reason. I can't figure it out. So I'm working on that. I think it is Satan's fault. You know how they say, like, you can't blame Satan for everything? Yeah, you can. I
Not
want
today,
to.
Satan.
Not today.
Not
There
today.
is no reason. We just had an awesome youth group. Amazing. And my mother took our boys for the evening. So,
2/3 of them.
2 of them. Yes.
The easier one.
The easier 2 are with my mother, and we have Bear, the bear,
Yes.
the little guy.
And as always, we're recording this on Sunday night after our high school ministry has met and convened. I don't even know what that means.
Convened? Wow.
But we did. It was good. It was a good night.
We did something different than normal. What, made you think to do that?
Because our middle school pastor did it with the middle school. And
Praise
I was like,
the Lord for new staff members.
I was like,
at
that was a
church.
good idea. I'm going to do the same thing.
Some freshness coming into the
Yeah,
ministry.
so we did a interactive worship experience. So just a bunch of different stations and some really good worship leading into it. And just kind of let students spend some time with God, reading their Bible and prayer and writing out prayers and writing what they're thankful for and taking communion. And
So they just kind of got free reign to go do what they wanted. And what I like is that there's so many different options to connect with God and to worship God. And I think they only think of 3. And so this is kind of a cool way to push them to that. I got there late because the big boys had a t-ball game, and then my mom offered to take them home with her. And so I was packing as quickly as I could.
And by packing, she means she grabbed the duffel bags from our last weekend getaway that hadn't been unpacked and tossed them in her mom's car.
That's efficient.
It is. I'm not dissing it. I'm just making sure we're clear.
So I walked in late, and of course, I busted through the door, and the door was loud, and then I see, all the kids are quiet, and they're journaling, and I was like, crap, but I dropped Bear off at the nursery, and then I came back, and the atmosphere was so cool. It was cool to see the teens, just lean into that, and I was telling Jonathan earlier that I heard something where they talked about how we should keep church weird, and I think that's true. I think we should do those churchy Bible things that are a little off culturally, but I think our soul needs it.
Yeah, just switch it up, make it different enough, often enough.
Yes.
But not do the same different things every time we do something different.
I'm following
That's
you,
deep.
but that was deep and difficult.
Our listeners may not follow that because I'm a confusing person.
Oh my goodness. So we are sorry for last week. We did not have a podcast. Why did we not have a podcast last week?
Well, our plan is to do it every other week.
Oh, is it? Good to know.
That's what we talked about.
Oh.
So,
I told you, we're off tonight.
yeah, I think Sarah's brain got left somewhere.
That hurts.
But you grabbed an extra dose of feelings when you came.
Stop! Oh my goodness. Can we edit that out?
So we might have to because of how loud you just yelled that. I think it broke the machine. So
why don't we start over?
We didn't record last weekend because we were out of town. We went to Pennsylvania to the deep backwoods in the middle of nowhere to Sarah's family property.
We did, and we loaded up and took the boys, and it was so nice for them to just be out in the wilderness and get to do all the things that they want to do, and I didn't have to yell at them for being too loud or too crazy or too dirty. They got to just
For
do all those
being
things.
too close to falling in the pond.
Yes. Yeah. And Bowen brought a salamander into the house, and I freaked out a little bit. I don't like critters.
They I think developed a love for them while we were there.
I think they did.
Yeah, it was good. It was a fun, relaxing weekend. I had no cell phone service for about 3 days.
That's good.
It was fun.
It's good for the
I
soul.
enjoyed
See,
it.
I did have some cell phone service because I slept at a hotel every night because I'm a princess and that's how I camp.
Yep, but it was good.
It was good. So, anyways, we're sorry that we didn't have one last week. Maybe we were supposed to. Maybe we weren't. I don't really remember because apparently I left my brain somewhere.
We don't have a plan for anything. That's what the Go podcast is about.
Go do whatever you want.
Go do it.
I love that philosophy. It's great.
It's fun.
So, anyways, we are excited to tell you that we are doing a giveaway.
Hey-o.
Hey-o. We mentioned that last podcast, and we did not forget. So, we are going to do
didn't forget.
a $25 Amazon gift card.
Oh.
So, Jonathan, what do they have to do to be entered into this contest?
They have to do all the things.
All the things.
We really need people to rate and review our show on iTunes. So that's super helpful. So if you rate and review, so that's give however many stars you think this show is worthy of. I would say 5. Some people may disagree, but and then you also write a review. So you write some nice words.
Sarah's so awesome. Jonathan needs to step it up a little bit.
Yeah.
Something like that.
JB needs to be nicer to Sarah.
Yes.
She seems to be having a difficult night. So give us a rate and a review. That gets you one entry. We're going to post about this episode on social media, on Facebook and Twitter. So if you share from one of our Facebook posts, Sarah is Sarah Baldwin on Facebook. I'm Jonathan Baldwin on Facebook. You share that gets you an entry. On Twitter, if you retweet either of our posts, I am at jbaldy5 on Twitter, and what are you?
I think I'm SL Baldwin 16 on Twitter.
Yeah, so you have to take our post and retweet or share. So if you share someone else's share, maybe you'll get lucky and we can figure out how to count that, but just share our posts, and each of you get up to 3 entries for this. And we'll put you into Download Youth Ministry has this really cool thing called the Name Picker, and you put it all in there and it runs it through and it randomly selects a name. I helped one of our friends do this for her photography business, and we've seen tons of other youth ministry friends use this, so we're going to use it in next episode. So you have a week between now and next Sunday to get your entries in. And then next Sunday, we will do it live when we record the show, and then it'll post the following week.
So technically speaking, Saturday evening will be when it closes. Sunday will be when we
Saturday
select.
at 11:59
there you
on
go.
June 9th.
The same time that so many college students are submitting their papers for their online classes.
Hey-o. Been there, done that.
Yes.
So anyway, rate and review on iTunes. Share our post on Facebook. Retweet our post on Twitter. You can add comments with it if you want, but you need to share or retweet and then write a review on iTunes. Simple enough?
Yep, it should be. Hopefully, if you have any questions, you can reach out to us. But we are excited to give that $25 Amazon gift card away. So today on the podcast, we are talking about letting your leaders fail. I'm really excited about this because this is a staple in Jonathan's ministry, something that he's very passionate about. So I'm excited that we can talk about it.
Everybody loves a good old dose of failure, right?
No, they don't.
Oh.
Nobody likes to fail. Actually, I think fear of failure is one of the top things that people are scared of. I think it's like public speaking, snakes and spiders, and then failure. Or maybe that's my list. I don't know.
I thought yours was alligators and being attacked by wolves.
It's true. It's so true. Okay, but alligators, they can like come at you in the water or on the land, or they could start in the water and then come attack you on land. Like,
taking the world by land and sea.
they are. What is it? Like, we gotta have the buses and
Yeah. What movie? I don't even know what movie that is.
The Breakup.
Oh, good movie.
Vince Vaughn is funny.
Yep.
I think he's funny.
Shout out to Vince Vaughn.
Yes. So my first
Talking
question.
about failure.
Yes, failure. My first question for you is, have you ever committed a Pinterest fail?
Me?
Yeah.
I don't have a Pinterest account, so...
Do you even know what a Pinterest fail is?
I know what a Pinterest fail is. I've looked at Pinterest a couple times, but they have changed it over the years. I'm adamantly against having a Pinterest account, first of all. But
Why are you against having a Pinterest account? Because you're a male?
yes.
That is sexist.
Yes, it is.
So you're admitting it.
I have friends that have Pinterest accounts, and we've discussed this.
Okay.
Male friends that have Pinterest accounts, and
Okay.
they see it like it's a great thing to have for creativity and whatever else. And I have consulted the Pinterest boards. Is that proper terminology? But they've developed it now so that you can't see a whole lot unless you actually get a membership. So, or I don't know, an account.
Yeah, whatever.
I'm pretty up with social media, but not with Pinterest. I don't know. Has there been a task you've given me that I've failed royally? Like a homemade project?
I don't think so, but I think your attempt at front handsprings is definitely...
That has nothing to do with Pinterest.
I know. That's the only thing I can
Grudgy
think of.
McGrudge holder.
I don't have a grudge against your front handsprings. I just think they're funny.
But
Okay.
they are handsprings. You just acknowledge that. Great job.
Is there anything that you feel like you currently fail at?
This could get deep. I have, I mean, if we're being honest, I think I failed with our high school leaders in a lot of ways this year. Just not pouring in what I would like to be able to pour into them. Trying to keep certain things, rolling the way I would like them to roll within our ministry. But then sometimes you got to give and take. I think one of the things right now that I've heard within like some leadership books and stuff is balance is a myth. Frank Bealer actually wrote a book called The Myth of Balance, but just talking about how you can never be 100% in every area. Like if you're going to be 100% in certain areas, then some other areas are going to have to, not be 100%. So if you're giving 100% to your job, then your family is going to suffer a little bit. And if you're giving 100% to your family, then you're going to have to put your job to the side. And so I think that goes in a lot of different areas. So that's kind of, I guess that would be one of my big ones right now. I think sometimes patience with our kids, I fail at.
For sure. Sign me up on that one too. Yeah. They can be difficult, and then you try again and you're like, okay, I'm going to be patient, I'm going to be gentle, I'm going to be like kind, I'm going to listen to their 5-minute story.
Then it's like, nope, I have no patience for you.
I think I told Bowen that yesterday when we got home from our 5 grad open houses, and
That was a long day.
I got nothing left for you, buddy. Like, just put your pajamas on and go to bed. Was kind of like my my pitch to him. And that was definitely a fail. But I'm still trying to kind of digest what you're talking about with the myth of balance, because I think that's, I don't know, just such a cool concept. I've heard of that book before, but I didn't know like how it kind of got how it laid out with that. But yeah, if we only have 100%, I know we like to say like I'm doing it 120%. Well, like that's not a reality, right? Like that's a joke. So
there's a ESPN radio show that I like to listen to. It's the Dan Le Batard Show, and it's super funny.
I'm shaking my head because it's annoying.
During football season, they always have the useless sound, and it's all like ridiculous sayings like that. Like, well, we gave it 110% today. We just didn't come out on top. Like, it's ridiculous things, and they just make fun of it and put a big compilation. But go on.
Thank you for sharing that with us.
You're welcome.
Changed my life.
I believe it.
Yeah, so I like that because you can't give your all to every category. I've definitely learned that over the years with the kids. Like, I can't give them everything that they need and do all these other side things. Like, I've got to pick. Sometimes I even picture, this is something maybe a little weird that I do in my prayer life with God, is I picture a plate. And I picture, my family on it, and I picture my faith and those things that I can't take off. And then I always want to ask God in prayer, like, would you allow me to put this on my plate, or are you asking me to take it off? That was kind of part of how I gave over the Perk. The Perk Coffee House was something I got the opportunity to help start, and after bringing that baby home, there wasn't any room on my plate. And I was trying to do it, and I was failing at every category. And so if I wanted to be successful at one,
I wouldn't say you
something
were
had to
failing at every category, but I would say we had lots of conversations during that first 6 months of Bear's life.
Yeah.
Just trying to say, hey, like, what are our top priorities here? And the perk just ended up being 5 or 6 on our list, and
Yeah.
that was far enough down that we eventually made the decision to step away from it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think those decisions are hard for a lot of people to make, because we want to take every opportunity. I think we're the generation that was told, you can do anything you want, and then we try to do everything that we want, and that just doesn't play out. So I love that idea, the myth of balance, and I'm going to have to read that book.
You should read it. It's in my office.
Awesome.
Brendan just read it.
Can you bring it home for me?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I can handle that.
Okay, so the next question is, with this idea of letting your leaders fail, I want to know, like, who you mean by leaders. Like, who could fall into this category?
Good question. Well, I think anybody that you lead could could fall into this category. So in the context that we most often talk about it, we're talking about our small group leaders within our ministries, within our youth ministry at our church. So that could play into the message that happens on a weekly basis. So a few years ago, we started deciding we want other people to be speaking into our students' lives. So we said, hey, here's a group of small group leaders that may or may not be gifted in the area of teaching, and we started working with them and saying, hey, like, I'd like you to teach on a Wednesday night. I'd like you to teach on a Sunday night. And sometimes that meant there was failure. And it's uncomfortable sometimes when you're put in that position. But even with, like, leading games, I remember a few weeks ago, probably about 2 months ago, we had a high school girl led a game with me. I think it was a Wednesday night, and I am a very dominant voice in those, and she just didn't really know what to do. I didn't coach her much. I just brought her up there and let her help me lead, and I don't know if she said a word the whole time. So then the next week, I said, hey, would anyone like to host a game? And her and another high school girl said, yeah, we'd like to do it. So then I coached them a little bit. I was like, listen, you have to talk way more than you did last week. And then they killed it. Yeah. So it took that, like, awkward failure moment a little bit for her to see, like, this could be really uncomfortable if I don't talk. And then the next time, she was, I think, very successful in it.
Yeah. It's, like, painful, though, to
it
watch
is.
that, and painful to, like, as a leader, let that happen.
And I think there's a balance in letting it happen and, like, letting them, like, roast and die up front.
Yeah, like, letting them stay there. Like, it would be different if you were like, all right, that's just your ability and that's what you're going to do. And you're saying, no, I see more in you, and coaching to get that out of them. So failure kind of being the path or the vehicle that gets them there. Kind of thing.
And I think even we're talking about small group leaders, but I think even with our kids, letting them fail in things to help them learn lessons and whatnot too. So if that's in sports, or if it's in music, or helping around the house, taking out the trash, like, we have these big giant trash cans, and our boys always want to help bring them up or take them out. And so there's been times where I just let them, and it almost runs them over, but they kind of figure it out. They can learn how to do it, and I don't know. That's just...
That, for me, takes so much patience and energy. It takes a lot more time and effort to let them do it than to do it yourself. So, like, even a simple thing as, like, toothpaste on their toothbrush. Like, I know that I need to let them try it, and they might fail, and they might get toothpaste on every square inch of that bathroom. But if I never let them try, then, like, they're going to be 18-year-olds that I'm putting toothpaste on their toothbrush.
That ain't going to happen.
It's not going to happen. Even though I like to baby the boys, Jonathan's a little bit harder on them. So children could fall in this category of letting them fail. Yeah. Obviously, there's barriers to that. I'm not going to let bear fall off the table, even though he's climbed on it 400 times. But
Yeah.
with I don't know, what are some other examples of leaders? Like, can you think of, so you have parenting, you have ministry.
I think, I mean, if you're a boss in a job, like, I don't know. Trying to think of like jobs I've had. I don't know everybody's job, but like, just letting, whatever tasks need done, giving those over and letting your employees do that. I got the chance to preach today at church in our main services, and I talked about how Jesus sent out the disciples, and he sent out the 72, but he sent them out to do ministry, and he didn't like walk with them and hold their hand. He just said, hey, go do it. And I really think he knew they were going to just screw it up in incredible ways.
That they probably wouldn't do it perfectly, all of that.
Yeah, but he just let them do it, and I think there's probably some coaching there too, but I think it's just figuring out how to let people do whatever it is, being okay with the tension that is going to be like this awkward time that, or maybe a sad time, if they, if it's really an embarrassing moment for them, but just like coaching them through it and saying, hey, like, yes, that was difficult, but these are the steps we need to take. There was a guy at a conference I went to recently, and he talked about constructive feedback, and that's the phrase he uses instead of constructive criticism. So he said criticism's never constructive. So he's talking about giving constructive feedback to these people in these situations. So if you're a small group leader, Sarah, and you teach at youth group on Sunday night, if we sit down on Monday and talk through it, and I say, hey, these are some things I noticed, but these are some things that you did really well. Like, that's constructive because you're kind of building that, building the positives, but then also talking about, hey, how can you improve? How can you get better?
That makes me think of one time I was watching a football game and the receiver missed the pass. And so the next game call, the next play that the coach called was another pass right back to that person. And I was really confused, and I asked you why. Why would a coach throw it back to the same receiver that had just dropped it?
Yeah, I'm
talking about sports, and Jonathan's eyes are lighting up. Oh my goodness, it's going to be okay.
This is the first time I've really gotten to talk sports on the show.
Take a deep breath and answer the question.
So, yeah, I think it's just you have to build back their confidence. And a lot of times, like if a quarterback throws a bad interception, a lot of times the next series you'll see a couple handoffs and maybe a couple short passes because they want to make sure they can get this easy pass before they start going back to those difficult ones. Okay. So, they screwed up big time, but then the next time they're going to go right, either give the ball right back to them so they don't really have a chance to like think about it and think about how bad they screwed up, but then they're going to go back to it.
Yeah.
I don't know if that was a good answer there.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of what I got when you answered it for me when we were at that game. And too, like, I like the idea of quickly doing it because I know for me, the longer I let failure set, then if there's a big span between, let's say when I first started speaking, I would do it and I would feel like it bombed and it wasn't good and I was nervous and I talked too fast. I always talk too fast, all those things. And then if I had a long time between the two, it was almost worse to try again.
Yeah.
But if I had to, okay, tomorrow I've got to do it, or the next week, it was a lot easier to try again.
Yeah, and I think that's the same in everything. Like if you have somebody that you're leading and you're going to go have a conversation with them about whatever the activity was that they did that you're trying to coach them through that they may have failed in, to do it as soon as possible, especially talking with our kids. Like, kids have really short attention spans, so they may either just completely forget that it even happened and then you lose your teaching moment, or they're going to latch on to the negative feelings that they have about that situation, and then you're kind of stuck with that. So I would say follow up quickly is key.
Something for me, I love Chip and Joanna Gaines from Fixer Upper, and Chip's like, it's not that hard. Like, when you're training somebody, tell them honestly what they did wrong, teach them how to do it right, and move on. And I think we avoid confrontation sometimes so much that we think, well, we don't want to hurt their feelings. And it's kind of like, for me, if somebody's honest with me, gentle but honest, it is so much more helpful. Because if they come and they tell me all these wonderful things, I'm going to believe about 25% of it. And if they have a little bit of negative in it, then I'm probably more likely to believe everything they're saying.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's what I mean. Even talking with the reviews of the podcast, I'm like, please be honest. Like, tell us what you think. It doesn't have to be the official review on iTunes that you say that, but like, send us a message. Like, if you're like, hey, that really stinks, or like, hey, you were really weak in this area. Like, tell me. Like, I want to know that honestly.
I think we both, through writing and speaking and ministry, like, we've kind of become hungry for feedback because we want to get better, and we know that that's how you get better.
Yeah.
And it's taken a while, especially for me to get there, because I am more sensitive than you are in all that. We know this. We know this. I have another question for you. Ready for it?
I think so.
True or false? You can learn more from failure than success.
True.
Why?
Because success just boosts your ego. Failure helps you get better.
Okay.
As long as you take the opportunity to learn from it.
Yes.
I think that's the key. If you fail and pout about it, or whatever you do when you fail, you're not going to learn anything from it.
If you fail and quit,
Or if you fail and quit, yeah.
that's not helpful.
Where would Michael Jordan be if he had never tried out for the basketball team again? We wouldn't have Space Jam.
I wish we had background music right now.
And we'd be stuck with LeBron James being dubbed the best player that ever lived.
I thought we banned LeBron James talk on the podcast. Didn't we discuss this?
I'm just saying.
I'm sick of it. Every
Michael
time I
Jordan's
get on,
better.
Okay, I thought you weren't allowed to compare him to Michael Jordan because Michael Jordan was... Anyways, we're done. Okay, I want to know for you, as a leader, what is the hardest part about letting and watching someone fail?
I think there's two things. One is if you have somewhat of a heart for other people.
Yes.
And because I think of like a leader being on stage, and like I don't feel like we've had any like bomb scenarios where it's just like really, really uncomfortable, except maybe leading some games. We've seen that a couple times, but that's usually such a short span of time, and the games don't matter anyway. And we've all bombed at a game. So, but I think it's hard to like know that their insides are just going crazy, and they're probably embarrassed, and they just want to be off stage. But I think also within our ministry setting, like, we want excellence in everything, and I think this is also why a lot of people struggle to allow people to fail, because they want excellence, whether that's in ministry or in your job or from your kids or your housework. You know, like, if you want the bathrooms cleaned right, you're not going to be like, Bowen, here is the toilet bowl cleaner and the toilet brush. Go clean the bathroom.
That scares me.
Like, that's not... There's probably going to be water on the floor, and it's toilet water, and then your floor's gross, and then it's just... Yeah. So you want excellence in what you do. So you have to be okay with it not being up to your standard if you do it yourself. And that's a hard point to get to.
I think we could have like a whole another conversation about it, because you can like reach excellence, but you can't sustain it if you don't have other people walking towards it.
Say it again.
I can't.
You can reach excellence,
but not sustain it if you don't have other people walking towards it. And I think that's sometimes where ministries get stuck, where companies get stuck. They nail it one time. And then that success is kind of what blinds them to be able to be successful again, because they don't want anyone to screw it up. And I think one of the biggest things is, and I think this is across the board with ministry and discipleship and just leadership in general, is that we want control. When we're a leader and we want control, we are okay with things even being mediocre if we're in control of it.
Oh, yeah.
And so that, I think, is really important to kind of have a control checker.
I think I've seen it before where people in charge or in control are okay with it completely failing as long as they still are in control.
Yeah, I feel that way sometimes with students in their faith, with their parents. Like, and I say that nicely.
Dig into that a little bit more.
It's hard because I want to be sensitive, and I don't think that came out really, like, gracious. But I think sometimes parents want so much control of their kids' faith because it matters so much to them. And I get it, because it's eternity, right? It's heaven or hell, and for me, that's the biggest fear in my life, that my boys would not love Jesus. Because
and we still
eternity.
have little kids, so we still pretty much have control of every area of their life.
Right. So that transition between the control and influence, and I don't know if you've seen the graph, but there's a graph for it.
You're making a great hand gesture for it. So
I hope they can see that probably. But yeah, I just think it's hard to let go of that control and let students fail in their faith and be okay with that.
I think we need to do another episode just focused on faith and the faith of students and the relationship with their parents and what that looks like.
Yeah.
Maybe we could coin a phrase that goes with that.
Stop it.
Okay.
We're not going there. This is a little tease for you, but we'll get to that someday. So I want to ask you another question. Can you give some examples of people in the Bible that didn't feel ready, or that didn't feel like they were ready when God called them to go?
Yes.
Let's hear it.
Moses.
Okay, what was his excuse?
Moses' excuse, which I mentioned this in the sermon that I got to preach this weekend, was that he didn't speak very well. How could he go talk to Pharaoh and demand that the Israelites be freed if he wasn't a good wordsmith, a good linguist?
He stuttered.
Did he stutter?
I think so. I think he stuttered.
Interesting.
Or stammered.
Stammer, stutter, Dusty Dinkelman.
Stop. See, I was thinking of The Notebook.
Oh.
But anyways.
Okay, so yeah, Moses is one off the top of my head. Do you have one in mind that you're thinking of too?
Jeremiah, always. I'm obsessed with the
Really?
book of Jeremiah, yes. But he said, God, I'm too young. And God was like, excuse me. No, you're not. I made you. I know what I'm doing. And then he had to go.
Yeah. Can you repeat the question?
Yeah, the question, just examples of people in the Bible that God called to go that didn't feel like they were ready.
Yeah, I was gonna say Jonah, but Jonah just hated the people that God was calling him to minister to, so I don't think that would fit.
I'm putting you on the spot.
Yeah,
here.
you are, man. I feel like I'm
Bible
doing
knowledge.
like Bible trivia.
I was just kind of thinking, because you had mentioned in your sermon about how the disciples, none of them knew what they were getting themselves into, and all of them were like mediocre, and I'm sure they didn't feel ready. And so I think that that's probably how a lot of listeners feel, and how a lot of people in their faith feel, that maybe God's calling them to something and they don't feel ready. And so then I think they hit the pause button and they're like, okay, I'm going to study, I'm going to pray more. And what'd you say about prayer this weekend?
I said prayer should not delay your action.
I think that's kind of controversial.
Yeah, but I think when I don't know if we have enough time to completely unpack it here, but like it's great to pray about things 100%. Like the Bible says pray about everything, but at the same time, like you should also be taking action. So if you just decide you're gonna pray about this opportunity, but you never move forward one way or another, like you're not taking the action.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And I think there's a lot of people that are sitting on an idea or sitting on a leading from God. You're like, I need to pray more about it. I need to read more about it.
And you think it's because they're scared of failing in that thing? Is that where you're going with that?
Yeah. And so we want to be those people in your life that say, go for it. It's time. You will never feel ready until you're in the middle of it, and you might fail.
You're probably going to fail at some point. Sarah, do you have a good failure story to share because you went for something
In my life?
in your life?
I have a lot. You're going to make me cry. We don't have time for this.
It doesn't have to be a long
is
story.
sensitive.
Just
I think right now, the first thing that came up in my mind is the book. So I wrote a book in 2016, and I'm still working on getting it published. And the hard part about it, I think the hardest failure ever is almost. Because almost is still a no. It's still not success, but it's close.
Yeah.
So it just eats at me. So yeah, that's something that I know that I have to keep getting up and keep trying, but it feels like a dead end. And sometimes you get to a point where you're like, I don't want to get hit in the face again. Like, I'd rather not. I'd rather hide. And I've been in and out of those seasons. But yeah, that's something I'm working on, because every time that I fail and I get back up, I get stronger. And I see that. I see you, God. I see what you're doing. I don't like it. That would not be the method I would pick.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been really good for me. What about you?
Well, first of all, I'm just on it with the pop culture references. And when you were talking, all I was doing was singing Kelly Clarkson in my head.
What?
What doesn't kill you makes you stronger.
I love you so much for that.
know.
Kelly Clarkson is my favorite.
Oh, man.
Yeah, you asked me a hard question, and then I'm putting it back on you.
I know.
You big jerk.
I was using that time as a buffer to try to think of something. I don't know. I don't like to fail, so I think I don't typically dive into things that are unknown to me, that there's much possibility of failure.
I think a lot of people can relate.
Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah. I
So,
think a lot of people are nodding their head.
I don't know. I hate failing myself.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I try many new things. I mean, this podcast is a new thing, but it's still not, because I like to talk and I talk a lot. So I don't think I try many new things that there's. I'm like, man, I really don't know how this is gonna end.
Mm-hmm. Dude, I think you're asking for failure to come up into your life. God's going to teach you something.
I'm not saying I've never failed, but I'm like, I feel like where we're talking, it's like, what is it that you've gone and like failed at?
Right. That you've reached for or felt like God's pushed you to that hasn't. Yeah, our stories in ministry have been a little bit night and day for us to be walking so much in step with it. But, yeah, I think that a lot of people can relate to your story. Like, where they could say, yeah, I have always made sure that the waters were, like, well tested before I ever took a step. And I think that that's kind of the mentality that we're going for here of go for it, try.
Yeah.
You might fail and you might be frustrated.
I think I failed in my pursuit of, I guess, running from God. Like, I pursued biology for 2 years, and I could not pass Chem 2. Like, I just couldn't. I struggled in chemistry in high school. I couldn't pass Chem 2 in college, and, like, I think God used that failure to redirect me back to where he had me in the first place, and I ran from it.
Right.
So
I do think that God gets our attention with failure.
Mm-hmm.
I think he gets our attention with pain. Again, I would put in the suggestion box something else, but God doesn't always take into account what I think, which is very good for this world.
Yeah.
So failure, our encouragement for you, if you are like Jonathan, where you feel like you maybe haven't taken certain risks because of that fear of failure, or if you're like me, where you're a little bit more crazy and you've tried big, hard things and you've found failure to be your friend, a friend that you don't want. For Jonathan, those types to encourage you to go for it, for the types that have already failed to encourage you to try again.
Yeah, I think you're definitely way more of a go-getter. I'm a great cheerleader, I think.
You are.
I'm like, go do it. But if somebody came to me and was like, hey, try this new thing that you've never tried before, I'd be like, probably not.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we also want to encourage you that those people that are coming up behind you, whatever it looks like, and I believe that we all have people that are running ahead of us and people that are coming up behind us. And I pray that you would turn around and you would let them fail in some way. Give them a task that you think maybe might be just a touch too big for them, and they might blow your mind. They might. I think the idea is allow there to be room for failure, but I think most of the time, 75% of the time, you are going to be radically surprised at how well these people do when they're given an opportunity.
I wholeheartedly agree with that. And I've seen that with middle schoolers. I've seen that with high schoolers. If you give them some space and set the bar high, they might fail, but they're going to hit it way more often than you expect them to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's all we have for you guys tonight.
I would love to hear stories of failure.
Ooh.
Or stories of you just going out and doing something that maybe you're scared to fail at, but you've decided, inspired by this episode or not, maybe just things that you've done.
Yeah, we were having so much fun with that, hearing from our friends. Like a couple friend of ours, they did an honesty hour, and we were like, yes, and they're like, oh, it was rough, but they agreed it was good. It's so good.
If you haven't checked out the honesty hour episode, it was one of the first couple. I don't know what number it is, but
I think it's number 1 actually.
Is it number 1?
Yep.
So go check that out, especially if you're married. Like, it's been really helpful in our marriage. So.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Don't forget about the gift card. What do you have to do for the gift card again? One more time.
You get an entry for rating and reviewing on iTunes. You get an entry for sharing our Facebook post, and you get an entry for retweeting our tweet about this episode. So go do those things. You get 3 entries, and the winner is going to be the owner of a $25 Amazon gift card. So go do that. Also, if you heard our intro music, and you'll hear it just a second, and our outro music, that is Addison Agen, and she's a rock star.
She is.
So go find her. We always link to her music in the show notes. I'm going to link to Frank Bealer's book, Myth of Balance, because we talked about that quite a bit. So
that would be great.
Yeah.
All right, well, we will talk to you guys next week.
Go fail something.
When the storm will stop